We're expecting UTS to give some action soon, as their countdown has started about 3 minutes ago at 11:30 a.m. local time. With 40 minutes available to complete the space resources task, there's up to 100 points available, and this task is sponsored by iSpace.
They'll be joining us for an interview soon, actually.
Yes, they will. So we will be having an interview here shortly with someone from iSpace in just under 10 minutes.
We'll be joined by Miss Hiroko Asakura, Global Alliance Specialist at iSpace for the Space Resources task. Making its first movements on that pitch. Nice close-up shot there. They too have another payload attached to the front. Ooh. What's happening here? Oh my gosh. Spring-loaded suspension, perhaps.
This is something we haven't seen before.
Again, we just keep getting surprised by the designs of all of these rovers.
That's incredible, that ability to move that chassis up and down.
I want to see that again. That was amazing. Thanks. I wonder if that will get the rover closer to the samples, perhaps, rather than having the payload extend down. Maybe the whole rover will get closer.
Very different design approaches to doing things.
I'd be so interested to know. It looks like there are some linear actuators on the side, potentially providing that maneuverable suspension there.
And there's that camera live feed. Once again, this is University of Technology Sydney completing the space resources task. So UTS Rock-E Rover. Rock-E the Rover is what the name is here. And they've just started not too long ago, so they've still got plenty of time to complete that task. And here we have an overview of what this task is comprised of. It's sponsored by iSpace. We will be having someone in just about 3 minutes joining us from iSpace, actually, who will be here for a quick interview. So stay tuned for that.
Base station team there looking pretty cool, calm and collected. Hopefully a sign of good things to come. It's a reminder too, as one of the team members is drinking water, the sun is starting to come out now here down at the Roseworthy campus. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Top up on some water if you haven't already. 6 shades, slide on sunnies, and wear that all-important sunscreen. The UV levels are high over this weekend. As UTS considers their next moves, the Adelaide Rover team has come away from that crater and traveling to another side, perhaps.
And while we have activity happening here on both pitches with the Adelaide Rover team and UQ Space, that your mission is going well is an incredible achievement already, even though it hasn't reached its destination. It's such an incredible achievement. We've seen the challenges that we can face in terms of spacecrafts and space systems, particularly with communication as well. So if you've got communication going and you can talk to your spacecraft and it's heading to the moon on its way, that's incredible news. But on the topic of rovers here, we're at the Australian Rover Challenge. Resilience, your mission, is carrying iSpace's very own tenacious micro rover. When is that deployed on the lunar surface? What will its mission be?
That was Miss Hiroko Asakura, Global Alliance Specialist at iSpace, one of the sponsors of the Space Resources Task.
University of Technology Sydney, attempting the Space Resources Task almost at their halfway point. Plenty of time to attain points. And if you're just joining us, this is the Australian Rover Challenge, the 5th installment of the hats as well, particularly for our volunteers, the camera crew, everyone that's working out on the field to stay hydrated and stay safe.
UTS absolutely zooming along on that lunar terrain. You could almost call that a dune buggy. Shredding through the lunar regolith. Where are they going to go next? Oh, an Adelaide Rover team attempting to use their robotic arm again. UTS continually driving around on that surface. That is amazing.
They've covered a mass area here.
I know we said there was less action on the Space Resources Task, but wow, that is a lot of racing there.
You know, I think at the end of this, I'd like to see a race between all the rovers.
There are a whopping 6 teams competing after the break. That is plenty of approaches to the different tasks to watch. Stay tuned. In the meantime, UTS Rock-E, the rover, is kicking up some sand, putting on a nice display for the audience over here who experience this sand kick up in 3D. Hopefully there's some beach towels.
I'd love to be at the beach right now in this weather, I have to tell you. As much as I love the rovers, the beach sounds like a wonderful idea.
I did see some swimming pools nearby. It's not out of the question.
That's an idea.
UTS continuing to persevere here. I know we've used these words a lot. Perseverance, tenacity, determination. But it comes in infinite amounts with all of these students here at the Australian Rover Challenge.
It's a beautiful connection.
iSpace as well. Their lunar lander is called Resilience and their micro rover was called Tenacious as well. All of these names reflect exactly the kind of hard work that goes into making these missions a success, even here on Earth. They have so many challenges to overcome, and the UTS GUI here is showing some interesting science data, science temperature data coming back. Potentially, they're processing something on board right now. So rover is scrambling, trying to find a way out with just under 12 minutes remaining. You can see there the wheels continuing to kick up the lunar regolith.
The determination to troubleshoot, to problem solve, and get their way out of there and continue the task in the time they have remaining. And while that is happening, over here on pitch A, in just under 2 minutes, we'll be beginning the...
Oh, looks like QUT have made a move over there. Sorry, QTS have made a move over on pitch B. Did they get out of that tricky situation that they found themselves in just minutes earlier. Perhaps that collapsible suspension system really played a part in that.
We're seeing some normal movement now, which is incredible. Getting themselves out of there, problem solving, coordinating. It must have been stressful, but what an incredible effort and perseverance, just as we were talking about before. And just under 10 minutes remaining. Plenty of time for the team to go around, accumulate as many points as they possibly can.
Just reflecting on what we saw yesterday from UTS, a little bit of a setback when they tried to descend down the lander. They had to call an intervention. Compared to the performance seen today, that suspension is just incredible. Working so smoothly for the team, and hopefully they've been able to get some results out of it.
As we tick over to 1200 hours into the afternoon here in South Australia local time, we do begin the countdown now for QUT Roar. UTS on the Space Resources task, still going strong. 7 minutes remaining. This is the final team before lunch break. This is the final team before lunch break for the Space Resources task, but don't go anywhere. We have 3 teams after the lunch break to complete each of the tasks, both the post-landing and the space resources.
So we will be going until 4:15 p.m. local time today. Plenty more hours of rover action left. And if you missed our leaderboard reveal earlier, you can jump on the website, Australian Rover Challenge, through the University of Adelaide, and see where all the teams stand. When we last checked in, the current reigning leader was AGH Space Systems, coming all the way from Poland, and 4 other Australian teams rounding out the top 5. And
Once again, the leaderboard will be updating as these tasks will be completed and as the days progress for the challenge, particularly the space resources task. Once all the teams completed, will be weighed accordingly. So definitely stay tuned at the end of today and early tomorrow morning for the 3rd day. We're still seeing some action from UTS, the University of Technology Sydney, here on the space resources task, even with under 5 minutes remaining. Effort until the last second, as we've seen so many of the rovers demonstrate yesterday and this morning.
Another good point of view shot there from UTS. You can really get a sense of just how difficult it is for that mission control team to be able to drive around their rovers when this is all they can see of the track. Situational awareness is key. And again, the teams don't really know what the track looks like until they arrive here in South Australia for the first time early this week.
Once again, here on the post-landing task in pitch A.
Space resources over on pitch B. One minute left for the Rock-E Rover, which is actually doing a bit of rocking around. Wow, check out that suspension system. It's like nothing we've seen yet from the Rovers who've competed here on the pitch this week.
Incredible display there.
Active suspension like that, quite unique.
I feel like that was almost kind of a last play.
The Rovers' prowess.
Yeah, kind of a goodbye for the Space Resources task. Incredible work, incredible effort. The team coordinating in the base and even the field crew. Just fantastic work.
As it trolls away back to the field team in the final seconds. That is time up for UTS. Give them a round of applause.
Incredible work.
We can see there UTS's rover descending down the ramp, ready to complete their excavation and construction task. Wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, we can see Rock-E, the rover there. I'm excited to see what it gets up to. That top-down view of the environment here lets you see all of those simulated craters. Pretty amazing to see the rovers move on those surfaces. It's pretty difficult. Oh, excellent. Big round of applause there. Yeah, these rovers just doing a fantastic job so far.
I'm interested to see how they approach this task compared to UQ, especially with the paver design, because each team is allowed to approach that how they like.
There really is just an enormous work that gets to this point before they even start competing. I mean, a lot of these teams have travelled domestically and even internationally, so you can think about the logistics involved of getting a pretty big bit of machinery over here.
I can't even imagine trying to get through border security with a rover.
So it looks like Scorpio is moving around and scoping out the pitch, trying to complete as much of that mapping task as they can. And we're also looking at this on the screen now at the UTS Rover. We're looking at Rock-E, and we can see that the payload here used to move around looks a pretty lovely shot of the rover there. You can see some very different wheels again from the side. They're very, very thin. This looks like it might be quite a light rover design. We can see that the body looks a fair bit smaller than our previous rover that we were looking at. Teresa, any ideas on why you might want a light rover design?
Yeah, it might give you advantages in being able to traverse the terrain without heaps of weight bogging you down. Oh, we see the linear actuation system there, lowering down into the regolith. That's really cool.
system there. We're pretty excited as the months progress to see what the ELO 2 team get up to as they're building the rover. So that's the rover that is going to be sent to the moon. That's Australia's very first rover. Pretty exciting stuff, and that'll be sent up to the moon to capture some lunar regolith, to then take that regolith into a machine made by another organisation to try and convert some of that regolith into oxygen. So pretty exciting stuff, and I wonder if some of those engineers are walking around today and having a look at all these wonderful ideas that were created by the student teams, because this task actually predates the rover, so I wonder how much inspiration was taken from the Australian Rover
Just over 30 minutes remaining for the UTS team, and it looks like they're making some great progress.
Lots of degrees of freedom of this rover here. You saw the chassis actually moving up and down as it's going through the different tasks. So I'm sure that allows the rover to approach the problem from a slightly different angle, which is sometimes exactly what you need just to get out of whatever tricky situation the rover might be. We can see now that it's moving pretty well. See where it's off to next. So we see another Xbox controller for this team. So it seems like a pretty good strategy for UQ. And it also looks like it's doing pretty well for UTS as well. UTS sitting in 13th position at the moment with 118.1 points. So they'd be looking to increase that at the moment. They've already gained some points just for getting started, and we've seen that they've already been moving some things around, so pretty exciting there. So there you go, you can see their scores so far coming up on the screen. So also some pretty great submissions for CDR and SAR. Had a pretty tricky post-landing activity, but scored well in the space resources task.
I think Grace is ready for another interview. So Grace, what have you got for us? I think there's some cheers coming from the base station. Seems like they've made some great achievements in their task.
Yeah, Rocky the Rover doing a really fantastic job moving around. You can see the Xbox controller and the view that they're getting there.
Achieving some great speeds traversing the terrain.
Yeah, they're really quite quick. You can see the points breakdown coming up on the screen as well, just if you needed a reminder. But yeah, all coming together for 100 total points. And once again, a reminder that the different rocks, they add up to being different points. So the bigger the rock, the more points you can earn. And the goal is to move those rocks into the correct area. So that's located with those red and white poles that we saw a little bit earlier with the UQ team. can often be a pretty difficult task for teams to decide who exactly is going to sit in that room on competition day. You can imagine that you want a team that can work really well together. Oh, we can see those rocks there. Really great view on that camera feed. So they'll now be calculating exactly the right move to make to put them in the perfect position. You'll also notice around the field that there's quite a few obstacles. They're there to sort of complicate things for the rover, and in different activities those obstacles can actually be pretty costly. So particularly in that other task we're looking at with automation, the mapping and autonomous task, there's a 10% penalty if you hit into one of those obstacles. So you really want to make sure that the autonomy that those rovers are using is making sure that they're not making any costly moves. Very nice work here from UTS Rock-E.
A lot of collaboration and concentration going on over there in the base station.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, it's pretty difficult for these teams to work out who's going to be in that room. You want to make sure, your team has to work together well, but you also want to make sure in case of, any illnesses or anyone can't be here on the day, that you've got some people that can swap in and can still achieve that goal. I know a few rover challenges ago, there was a pretty big sickness going around, just that time of year, and so they had some people swapping in and out, which can add some added difficulties.
We can see over on pitch B, the Adelaide Uni Rover starting to traverse across the terrain. Meanwhile, give them a round of applause. Well done, guys.
Pretty tricky situation. You can see them there. Oh, look at all that regolith moving through the wheels. So I guess that's one of those specifics of that wheel design, making it hollow so that sand can move through, or the regolith rather.
I think we have another interview lined up with Grace. Let's hand over to Grace. Thanks.
All right, we're going to get there in a few moments, but in the meantime, let's watch what UTS are up to. So again, we can see that very specific design of the rover wheels, helping it move through this very difficult surface. Teresa, any ideas maybe what those wheels could be manufactured from, or maybe something that you've seen in the past?
It looks like they might be 3D printed, which is a technology that a lot of uni students and even school students use, because it's a really low barrier to entry, cheap materials, able to reproduce and prototype quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's one of those really big differences between building a rover that's working on this simulated moon environment and building a rover that can work on the moon. Because although we can simulate as much as we like here, we can't exactly simulate the temperatures that might be experienced by spacecraft heading up to space, and also the radiation effects and lots of other things as well. So the teams have the ability to use materials that perhaps wouldn't be working if it was on the moon, although there is lots of research working out which plastics and other things that we can use when we're building things for the moon. A lot of that research is being done from the universities that you see here today. All right, we might try again to hand over to Grace, and hopefully there's an interview waiting for us. Hand over to Grace.
For the students here today to network with those organisations, and for the organisations to see what excellent engineering those students have been doing. Views there of the UTS team transporting one of those rocks.
I mean, it's pretty amazing for these students to complete such big challenges. You would imagine that it's really good for these employers to see. You can see even here in this UTS Rover, there's a lot of really great ingenious design that they've used to be able to get this challenge working. You can see them there approaching that red and white zone that we were speaking about earlier. So again, that's very important if you're wanting to score as many points in this challenge as possible.
Wait to see if they're able to place that rock down.
So as we mentioned before, this design is really up to the team. So we can see that the end effector that this team is using is something that looks like it's doing a pretty good job at moving those rocks. Oh, massive round of applause here. You can see as they've dropped that rock. Yeah, really fantastic work. You can see that end effector doing super well. Pretty sunny day out here in Roseworthy. Good to see people being sun safe out there as they're watching this wonderful Rock-E rover complete its task. We can hear lots of excitement coming from the workshop.
I like those orange wheels.
Yeah, they look really fantastic. All of these rovers look very professional. So the work doesn't stop when they are off the pitch. There's a lot to do in terms of judging off as well. So we mentioned earlier about the presentations that are related to some of these tasks. So particularly that mapping and autonomous task. The teams need to present a presentation to the judges that talks about, I guess, what they found. So I think they need to prepare even some slides and things as well. So again, thinking about that, I guess, multidisciplinary nature of competitions like this.
Especially for the autonomy and mapping task, the teams have 10 minutes after the completion of their time on the pitch to prepare their presentation, and then 10 minutes to present it to the judges.
Yeah, that's a very quick turnaround. You'd want some people that are pretty ready to talk, lots of public speaking skills and communication abilities that they need to grow to be able to do that.
You can see a peek there into the electronic systems of the UTS Rover. Lots of mechatronics experience needed to manufacture these systems. I'm sure there were many fried circuit boards along the way, but that's all part of the process.
I've gotten up to, you can see the pavers that they've designed there, very different to what we were looking at last challenge. And it'll be exciting now to see exactly how they're going to pick those up. So we saw a system before where they were using that same actuator last time, where they were using, we think it was magnets to perhaps pick up those pieces and move them around. And we're now going to have a look at what this end effector is going to do to pick these up.
Now, Amber, it's my understanding that you know quite a lot about robotic end effectors. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, completing my honours project, we actually designed an end effector that can be used to explore small celestial bodies. So honours projects are another example of a way that university students can get some hands-on experience. So a lot of these students might be doing undergraduate degrees, or perhaps they're doing postgraduate degrees, and they will be completing some practicals and things as part of their degree. But often as they head towards their capstone courses, they can complete something that's a little bit longer and they can achieve a bit more in that time. So for me at the University of Adelaide, that was creating an end effector, which was pretty exciting stuff, and I'm sure lots of the students here today are also working on capstone projects where they're completing some pretty cool stuff. Perhaps for some of them the Rover Challenge might actually be part of their capstone course. I'm not sure, but that's pretty common in a lot of these student competitions.
Yeah, sometimes it's not until you're working in a project with the whole team of people, multidisciplinary environment, that you get that real learning, those real learnings.
Teresa, would you be able to tell me a little bit about your work last year as a part of your capstone project? It had a lot to do with what's happening today, actually.
Yeah, so as part of my honours project, I actually worked on a lunar rover, not as sophisticated as the rovers we see here in the Australian Rover Challenge, but I was involved from the software side. So when we've seen the user interfaces of the various rovers, that's the stuff that I really like.
I think your fried circuit board comment from earlier makes a little bit more sense now. Hey. Oh wow, we can see this movement here. Oh, it looks like a pretty cool system that they're using here. We can see some zip ties, we see some core flute pieces. Oh, very clever. So now they've grabbed onto that one and perhaps they're going to attempt to drag that over to the correct location. Let's see how they go.
It's just ticking over to 2 minutes remaining for UTS, so let's see what they can achieve in those 2 minutes.
Already such a mammoth effort today. They've done so well, so we're hoping they can achieve a little bit more in that minute and a bit that they have left to go. Once again, that use of core flute, just showing you that you don't need fancy things to build something as sophisticated as these devices. That's pretty an ingenious use of something that's a pretty regular piece of plastic. Oh, great stuff there. They've dropped that one down. So the pavers they use for this task can start in one of two locations. So either on the lander, that's where the rover started initially, or in a designated paver box at the rear of the lander. In a dedicated payload made by the team. So either they can build something special or they can use that sort of pre-assigned location.
Just there we could really see the capability of the UTS rover, able to overcome the challenges associated with sometimes getting stuck in the regolith simulant. But yeah, really great efforts from the team as they close out their attempt at the excavation and construction task.
Yeah, moving very quickly at the end of that task there. Great work. Big round of applause for the Rock-E. The UTS should be very proud of themselves. They got quite a lot achieved in that task. So hopefully we'll be able to check back in on the Adelaide Rover. There we are.